Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, good morning and welcome to DigiTec 2025 by the Union of Advanced Technology Enterprises. Thank you. This year's DigiTec is truly a special one as we are celebrating its 25th anniversary and the 25th anniversary of the Union of Advanced Technology Enterprises. And these are not just the numbers. This is a true testament of what the Armenian tech communities have achieved and what is yet to come. To celebrate this for 3 consecutive days at this stage at DigiTec, we will be hearing the voices of the ecosystem. The leading tech communities of Armenia have prepared for you a series of talks, workshops, and panel discussions. On this note, let's move to the contentful part of the day. It's not every day that we get to hear from the true visionaries of decentralized web. But today, in scope of DigiTec, and with the help of the Web3 Armenia Foundation, this is possible. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome and a round of applause to Dr. Gavin Wood, the co-founder of Ethereum and the Web3 Foundation founder.
Are you going to come, Arty? It's a fireside chat, remember?
It does work. All right, okay, so thanks for coming, Gavin. I think this is the first time that in these regions overall, Gavin or one of the top Web3 founders have been, right?
Indeed, yeah, it's my first time in Central Asia generally.
How are the impressions so far?
Yes, I've been well fed.
Okay, all right. Okay, so unfortunately, Mr. Wood, Dr. Wood, has less than 1 hour that he needs to fly, saving free speech in other countries. So we'll try to make it as informative as we can. All right? Let's go. So first things first, you know, when you read the Bitcoin white papers and ethos, you can clearly see that Satoshi knew what he is doing. It was not just a game, a crypto, or whatever. He knew he's going to liberate what's left down for. When you first came into Ethereum, co-founded it, did you really knew what you were doing? Or was it just a side interesting project? Did you understand the result of it, the influence on the world?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to point to one sort of aspect that was a driving factor, it would be curiosity. So before I got into Ethereum, I was sort of quite interested in Bitcoin and the technical aspects behind it, and actually looking into some of the technologies surrounding Bitcoin at the time, colored coins, decentralized exchanges, but nothing really sort of caught my imagination. And it took until reading one of these early versions of the Ethereum white paper that my curiosity was stirred. And I wondered if it sort of could be as important and significant as it seemed on the face of it. And so, I don't know if I was, if you could really say I sort of had faith or something that it was going to be quite so big, but maybe I wouldn't even call it prescience, but I definitely had a curiosity as to how it would not be so big.
Okay, but then you came up with the term Web3, and it's now more than, it's not anymore a technical thing, right? It's not a next generation of applications. It's more like a approach, lifestyle, philosophy. Did you intentionally do that, or did you just grow up into that philosophy?
I think I had the philosophy like before, you know. I think I've had the philosophy for some years before, actually. But the term, such as I used it, although I did bring up the social circumstances of the need for this technology set, Web3 itself was really intended more to be this, I don't know what you want to call it, like a platform, I suppose. In the same way that the Web 2, is a platform of technologies without necessarily talking about any specific technology. I mean, I guess you could argue HTTP is more or less, by definition, Web 2, but there's a lot of technologies that come and go within the Web 2 sphere. And I think I can imagine that Web 3 would be the same. It's a sort of platform for getting things done, effectively for allowing massively multi-user internet applications. But it's not, the term itself was only tangentially philosophical. And this is, I think, unfortunate, because over the years, it's actually the philosophy that has become more important than the specific technologies.
Yeah, the questions are going to get spicier and spicier. It's not scripted. We never planned any question answers. So if you feel like you don't want to answer, this is a free speech country. You just can tell me to piss off and jump to the next question. So we get it. Web3 is now what it is. It's a philosophy far beyond technology. Are you planning to introduce something new? Because when you're saying Web3, people think it's about technology. They don't think about freedom of speech, individuality, and other things. Is it time to introduce new term, more or less technical?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the term that is required is, I mean, I'm doing a bit of reading these days, as we have discussed. One of the books that I've started reading is called this Sovereign Individual, and it's quite an interesting book in that it was written 30 years ago, and it talks about more or less the same, or talks using the same premises that I find myself thinking in terms of over the last 10 years. Except, of course, what it calls the internet, we call Web3.
Yeah, well, obviously, internet was supposed to be what Web3 is trying to be, no? I mean, no one did plan it should be in the hands of big tech and enslaving people, or not?
I don't get the impression many people plan the internet at all, really. It just sort of evolved into how it is. But yeah, I think there does need to be some new terminology, or at least I think it could be useful. Need is a strong word, but I think new terminology could be useful to describe the mindset, the philosophy, the principles of sort of individual action that underlie the reasons that you would want as an individual to use Web3 technology. I get this a lot, you see. I get people questioning me, well, it's all very well that you can hold tokens, but why would I care? Like, my bank holds my money and it seems to work fine. My government counts my votes and it seems to work fine. And it takes some substantial effort to bring about a position, a sort of perspective of mind in such people that actually you need to do more. It is not reasonable to trust those that you vote for with your vote. It is not reasonable to trust those who make money off you with your money. Like, there are certain things that we have grown accustomed to in the developed industrialized world that are just not actually that reasonable in this new technological era. And I believe, and so do the authors of this book for what it's worth, that as time goes on, that will become increasingly, blindingly obvious.
Oh, yeah, I fully agree, because I want you to come back to Armenia one more time. So, I forgot to ask, can you all hear us well enough? Yeah, right. Digital slavery, digital gulags. How close are we to it, considering what's... Can we have now?
Digital slavery. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I would say we're pretty much there. I mean, I just heard actually yesterday that it is now illegal or becoming illegal in the UK to hold more than £20,000 in stable coins. So we are now at a point where, just as we were chatting about RT yesterday, it is no longer a acceptable thing in a supposedly free society to hold a secret key, a 32-byte quantity, if that 32-byte quantity implies that you can spend more than £20,000 with it. Now this is, I mean, aside from arguing over the differences between a stable coin and not so stable coin, this is a maddening position for a supposedly free society to be in. And it demonstrates, in my mind, very clearly that we are not, well, at least British residents, are not living in a free society. But it's not just the UK. I can single it out because I happen to know a bit more about British politics than other countries. But it's not just the UK that is getting increasingly less, or increasingly more obviously non-free as crypto becomes increasingly more obvious in society. It's many parts of the nominally free world. And it's unfortunate, and we could probably discuss this for quite some time, that the promotion of such societies does not match the reality increasingly.
Oh yeah. Do you guys get it? What's being spoken? Who knows what Web3 is? Just phrase it. Okay, let's do the other way around. Who doesn't know what Web3 is and just came here by accident? No? Okay, all right. You understand what we are talking about, right? Have you seen what they are doing? Soon, if we keep going this way, they might not even allow you to have encryption, to use encryption at all. Encryption will be out of the law. And right now, they are hitting the encrypted messengers, right? So what's your take on that?
I mean, I think it's actually worse than that. Encryption in the UK has been frowned upon for some time, and there's been a number of political efforts to outlaw it. I believe the most recent one is probably likely to go through the democratic process, such as it is in the UK. Unfortunately, I think it's actually the entire branch of mathematics that we will, in the not too distant future, see flirted with illegality. So there is encryption, but there is of course also digital signatures. And this is indeed, as I just mentioned, this is about the ability to demonstrate digitally that you own some secret. Yeah. And to do so without having to constantly change the secret. Basically, sign information, put your stamp of approval on it. This is what belies cryptocurrency, right? The ability to hold tokens. For what it's worth, it's also what underlines internet banking. When you log on to your bank using Web2 technologies, your bank signs something to tell you it's really your bank, prove to you. Well, it's just that technology switched around, right? That's all we're talking about here with cryptocurrency. It's literally just you proving to other people that you are who you say you are, and these are your coins. And it's a dangerous thing, or at least that's what the current establishment views it as. And this is why it is appearing to become increasingly controlled. And taken to its logical end, this entire branch of mathematics will become restricted, regulated, and to some extent outlawed.
Yeah, I'll try to be a devil's advocate only for one question. So, obviously this brings you freedom of finance, freedom of communication, and then later on freedom of speech, if this goes on and on. But at which point should freedom of speech stop? I mean, is there a border after which someone should be able to, the watchers should be able to stop your speech?
This is a slightly thorny question. I have not yet seen or heard of speech so heinous and so socially problematic that it should result in systematic violence against the speaker. I would say that.
Well, if someone says stop bombing Palestine, let's say, he's now considered terrorist in some countries, I don't know. That's the main point of the opposite side. They always say, if we let you speak what you want, you'll call to actions like terrorism and I don't know. But if you give them one tool to silence you, they'll move the border more and more. So there is either that way or full freedom of speech. Which one does Gavin prefer?
As I said, I have not yet heard or seen any speech so heinous as to warrant systematic violence against the speaker.
All right, we take it. All wars are bank wars. What do you think?
All wars are bad wars.
Bank wars.
Bank wars.
That's like from one of the founder fathers of America. He used to say, all wars are bank wars. Or, as they say, you can't start a religion without bank's approval. So what's your take on that?
Possibly true, but I mean, I think this is probably placing a little too much, not power, recognition in the hands of banks. I think there are wars that are done strictly for the spoils and not with the permission of the bankers. Oil wars come to mind. And there are some geopolitical wars not a million miles from where we are that also seem to have historical circumstances circling more around strategic locations than strictly a bank signing off on it.
So there is a truth in it, but not entirely, right? You're going to be quoted on this, by the way.
Choose my words well, Martin.
Okay, all right. We jump into some technical questions I always wanted to ask you. So, Amir was supposed to be here with us. I wanted to ask that to him as well. He got sick, unfortunately. But is the Bitcoin the king? I mean, he doesn't recognize Bitcoin. He says it's a crappy blockchain. He doesn't even, give the credit to Bitcoin.
It is.
Yeah, but it did start it. You don't say the first Ford was the bad car. It did started it, and it's still relevant, no? Or what's your take on that?
I mean, I think you can be pretty honest here, right? So, it's a crappy blockchain. It was the first blockchain. It has not really evolved with the times. It is the biggest, the most capitalized. It has the highest liquidity, and it has the biggest following. Yeah. There you go. Okay, is there much more to it? If that implies it being the king, then sure, it's the king.
Okay, we're not going to let this off. So, do you think, in theory, proof of stake consensuses can match proof of work consensuses, as in for censorship resistance, fairness?
I don't recognize proof of work as a term. I only recognize proof of waste.
Show me it. So, still.
Do I think proof of waste is a good technology? No.
Do you think the proof of stake can match the same censorship resistance and fairness as proof of waste?
Possibly, but I have better ideas in mind.
Go ahead.
Proof of personhood.
Proof of person.
Yes.
Sounds like some marketing trick. Tell us.
So I actually, this seems to be what Satoshi had in mind when he came up with, well, he didn't really come up with proof of work, did he? Proof of waste. That was like Adam Back and people before him, right? But it seems to be vaguely what he had in mind, or she, when...
He.
Is it he? when writing about what it was meant to do. The idea was everyone's got a computer, and computers have roughly the same hashing capabilities. Therefore, it's sort of one person, one vote, with deciding which blocks are effectively final. That was the argument. And it doesn't work, obviously, because if you have loads and loads of cheap energy and silicon, then you can massively outperform everyone else in deciding which transactions are final. But if we wanted to achieve what apparently they set out to achieve, then there are other ways that we might do it. Now, it's quite hard to prove one's personhood digitally, and it's only harder with AI, but I believe there are ways. And once you have the infrastructure to do this, you can effectively run what I think the proof of waste was meant to be. And you can do this a lot cheaper than having to waste energy.
It's not about cheapness, no. It's all about to make sure that something was wasted. You know how historically they sacrificed a cow, that the coin had the power of the cow. You sacrifice the electricity for the Bitcoin to have the price of it.
This is a nonsense argument, Artie. If I burn a $10 bill, it does not somehow give me $10 worth of speech.
So you have the ashes, which were supposed to be $10 previously. At least for people, it has some value.
No, it doesn't. The ashes of a $10 bill have no more value than the ashes of newspaper.
We have our students here sitting. You're going to pass something different than what Gavin said. But again, he's the inventor of Web3. You choose which version is right, okay? One, on this note, you know, Nikola Tesla used to say the best currency would be if people could change electricity to something, to information, send it over to Mars, and then change it back to electricity. So electricity is the ultimate currency of the universe, and sending it as an information would be like the best currency. So Bitcoin does the half of it. It changes electricity to a coin. It can't change it back, but at least it does the half of it. Can you come up with something better?
I would say half of teleportation would be destroying me, but not.
Fair.
Would you like me to half teleport you? You can be a real trailblazer.
I can see the security is like paying cautious views, like no one is getting destroyed, not today. Okay, all right. But you accept that Bitcoin is like the most decentralized right now and the most censorship resistant?
No, I definitely do not agree it's the most decentralized.
And which, go ahead please.
Not at all.
Okay.
Question, I mean, I don't see how it could be the most censorship resistant. But it's certainly not the most decentralized.
I'll tell you how. When they were blocking Russian transactions on most of the miners, there were still miners here and there that were processing it for higher fees. Therefore, it was. Try doing it with proof of stake or delegated stake, they'll quickly make change.
No. Okay, so, quick lesson on consensus. Bitcoin is proof of waste. Nakamoto consensus. This means you can soft fork with 51% of hash power. If you're willing to spend the money, you can make a chain that disregards blocks with particular transactions in. You need only 51% to censor, and that's 51% of hash power, not 51% of stake, right? Now, hash power can come and go relatively easily. There's plenty of people in China that are going to sell you silicon and cheap energy in order to buy that hash power for as long as you want to censor transactions. And there is a very specific market price, which is the rest of the 51% that you don't have. Once you have that, these small miners that do provide the transactions, you just disregard their blocks and you mine over them. And because you have enough power, you'll manage. And it's really easy if the other big miners sort of nod you along as well. It only requires a soft fork, not a hard fork. Yeah, it only requires 51% to ignore certain blocks. It doesn't require anyone to do anything actually wrong.
Yeah, but if that keeps happening, fork will happen. The pivots will continue with the Satoshi Vision blockchain where nothing is now.
Because what the big holders of Bitcoin, and therefore the ones that keep the price going, care about is security. They want to make sure that their transactions will go through at the end of the day, which means they entrust to the 6 or 7 miners that actually control the vast majority of Bitcoin hash power a degree of trust. Now, the problem is that there are only 6 or 7% because it's not democratized, because it's not proof of personhood, because it is literally just proof of capital, proof of energy.
Crypto is a scam, forget it. You were supposed to say that, yeah, Bitcoin is decentralized, and I was supposed to ask why did you not sync parachains back to Bitcoin combined mining thing, but now we got this. So what's the real decentralized chain? Tell us, even if it's an advertisement.
Polkadot.
Polkadot.
I mean, it is. It's got over 100 different economic forces that you would need to compromise before you could compromise the chain. With Bitcoin, it's, I don't know, 6. With Ethereum, it's like 2 or something.
Yeah, I've seen those metrics, but in real life, how many times did Polkadot prove it's censorship resistant? How many times people tried to?
Well, isn't this something that you can't actually prove? You can only sort of prove as you can only not prove that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to prove a negative, right? To prove that something could have happened but didn't.
Okay. Just for a record, this won't be quoted, hopefully. You know, all these people sitting here, they definitely use crypto, know Web3, more or less, do programming. But I'm pretty sure not all of them are, very few of them are developing on Polkadot, right? Because, why? It's complicated, because marketing of the other stupid blockchains wins, because of what?
Well, for those who want to launch a new shitcoin, Polkadot doesn't have a sufficiently idiot audience to fleece. And that's where most of the development goes, as far as I can tell, in Web3.
Quantitatively, yes. Qualitatively, not really. So tell us, what's the next big, real project in Web3? Not just, yeah, we got it. Okay, we understood. The next impactful thing.
I've been asked this for 12 years almost, and you know, I give the same answer I always give. I mean, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that can be done, but it's, you know, it's up to people to have imagination and a bit of technical prowess.
Okay. One last fully technical question, and then we jump back to interesting stuff. All right? Don't go away. So Solidity, if someone didn't know, was done by this guy, right? And since you are not doing it anymore, it evolved up to which version? 8, which is the current Solidity version? No? Who knows which is the current Solidity version?
Something around 30, I think.
Solidity, which 8 point what? So you left it on 3 or when? 2?
I mean, Matt, I set out the definition and vision for the Solidity language.
And did you check out, because we know there are parachains on Polkadot with, again, Ethereum Solidity support. Did you check out how did that evolve? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it worth it?
The language itself? I mean, you know, I did it in a couple of weeks, the language spec, so don't expect too much.
You did it in a couple of weeks, now you need to learn it a couple of years. That's the guy, because of him. And most of them, you see that this is a trend, like Telegram Open Network comes with its own language. These that come with their own language. Why so? Why wouldn't it be since the beginning just like, I understand that it has some specifics on blockchain related things, but why would you go with a new language? Would it not be possible to stick to the previous old languages and just add a couple libraries?
No, not really. And for what it's worth, we did do this with Ink later, where we actually basically just used Rust and then made some smart contract specific macros and APIs. But the reality is that smart contracts, particularly on such an underpowered chain like Ethereum, need a very particular language, very domain specific. You need to keep, for example, the contract code down because Ethereum's maximum contract code is, I don't know, 80K or 40K or something. Like if you compile Hello World in C++ on, you know, without thinking too hard about compiler flags, it'll probably be more than the maximum program size that Ethereum allows. Yeah. So it does need to be quite domain specific. It also has very particular requirements for like the underlying ABI, like how you call functions in smart contracts, how you pack parameters, arguments, and unpack them. And it also has very particular machine code, like EVM code. And all of this conspire to make it really needing its own very relatively simple language. And for what it's worth, it wasn't the first one. I made a one before Solidity called LLL. Lovely little Lisp-like language. And it basically is a very simple language that just riffed off the EVM code and added some extra functionality in a sort of Lisp-like syntax. And Solidity was basically created to make it easier for people than LLL, because LLL wasn't so easy. So it looks a lot more like JavaScript, Solidity does. And, you know, Vitalik had his own language at the time called Serpent, that he then later redeveloped into Viper. Jeff had his own language as well, who I can't remember what that language was called. But in the end, Solidity was, I guess, more familiar to people with its JavaScript-like syntax, that it sort of ended up winning out.
Okay, back to questions for normies. Web3, is it gonna win? Is it gonna lose? Does it even matter against the totalitarian regimes and IT gulags and the rest? Or is it about fighting back?
Like I was sort of saying at the beginning, Web3 is tooling for people of a personal philosophy in line with our new age, the new age of humanity, the information age. Once you understand that this is the information age and not the industrial age anymore, then Web3 tooling will make sense. If you don't understand that, then you will wonder why. And to the degree that people do understand that, will be the degree to which Web3, quote unquote, wins.
Now, the next big fight for Web3-ish could be the messaging apps. As we can see, the Telegram somehow managed to survive European pressure. The Signal is saying if they keep pushing, they'll get out of the European market, with the private messaging. But then still, all of them have, at least I have suspicion, they are not being quite honest to us, but because at least they are taking your phone number when you're registering, which makes no sense. And do you think messaging app, like fully private, fully end-to-end encrypted, no privacy breaches will come in near times? And if it comes, how is it going to survive if they remove it from app stores? Shall we need decentralized or third app store, a place where free software can survive?
Yes, quite possibly, but so I think firstly, yes, it's absolutely crucial that this technology exists. Second, I think it's absolutely crucial that a regular person who is not an Apple employee or an Android Google employee or a Huawei employee or a Samsung employee or for that matter a Signal employee can credibly believe that they have privacy, digitally speaking, when communicating using their device. And I do not believe we're in this situation at all. Again, it's a hangover from the industrial age, where we do just trust institutions, large, corporate, oftentimes with government conversations going on, institutions. Like, even if Signal were 100% legitimate in what they say, even if the product were 100% bug-free, how do you know that Apple haven't inserted different software when you download it from the App Store? Or Google when you download it from their App Store? Answer, you don't. So, yes, unfortunately it's a tricky question. There's a few potential routes to go, but I don't think that, I do think that the democratic process can deliver results when the situation that citizens are in gets uncomfortable enough. So I hope that the democratic process, at least in the countries that I tend to visit, is such that we will be able to furnish ourselves with devices, firmware and software installations that we can not trust, but credibly come to believe through verification and analysis actually upholds the expectations that we as free citizens have.
Well, either way, we're going to need that decentralized app store, right? Permissionless, let's call it app store, right? And yeah, what are you waiting for? I mean,
well, I don't know if you know, but Apple tend to make quite strong control of their app store, and I'm not sure what the situation is with Google, but I wouldn't be too surprised if on some of their phones it's quite hard as well.
yeah, you first create the permissionless app store, then you force the mobile developers to unlock the hardware for it to use them, and then we win. No, it's not that easy.
Well, how do you expect to force Apple to do anything?
If the Android side does that, and there is a crucial amount of users using it, Apple will have to do it, or
Well, it
claim
seems
that-
to me that Apple don't really care that much about the philosophy that Steve Jobs founded it on, which is to say individual sovereignty and
Was
upholding.
it? Did it?
Oh yeah, he was a legit 60s, 70s California kid, and he really bought into much of the, at the time, sort of what would you call it, techno-hippieism, and the idea that technology should work for the individual, not the other way around. Unfortunately, they only pay it lip service these days under, well, to be fair, I could call out Tim Cook, but Steve Jobs was doing it as well back when the App Store launched.
Last couple of questions, bear with me. You know, we all know the European MiCA regulation, and we know that Europe is pushing on other countries to adopt that MiCA regulation as well. So what do you think about the slave-minded leaders who obey to those regulations?
They're not leaders, they're just stewards who need ushering out.
You can clap here. Alrighty, so your top 3 favorite movies?
The Matrix. I've got like a list of 10.
Top 3 only.
15, top 3. Tough. I mean, I really like the Dollars trilogy. I'd probably go for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then, like, I want to say Terminator 2, but, you know, I've already said The Matrix, and it's sort of on the same kind of level. But I'm going to say Terminator 2.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else.
We have our students here, and not only. So there are 3 books that you recommend everyone to read.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of these as well. I definitely reckon first chapter of Sovereign Individual.
Read it fully. Okay. Next.
At least. History of Western Philosophy. And a little bit lighter hearted, but Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman.
Never heard of it.
Okay. Richard Feynman was a Nobel physicist, and he also lived a pretty interesting life. And this is a sort of vaguely autobiographical book of that life.
You don't recommend reading one of your books, no? Okay, right. And your advice to our future generation of hardcore Web3 savers, our students, what would that be? A few advices.
Without getting like too deep into like the difference between philosophy and technology, the purpose of Web3 really is to reimagine the social contract. We don't do this very much. Well, because we're born into it, we will tend not to. It's just the wallpaper, you know, it's the hillside. And if you grow up around it, you don't really notice it anymore. But we have moved into a different age. I absolutely believe this. We are no longer in the industrial age. It no longer matters how big of a factory you can make. At least not nearly to the extent that it used to. And what matters is how many minds you can move. And to this extent, the old social contracts, I mean, and I say plural, they aren't really plural anymore because we sort of banished beyond perhaps arguably China and to some extent some of the Southeast Asian countries. Social contracts were largely banished in favour of this American 50s model. And it's running out of steam. And it's not just about, therefore, taking these Web2 services, these like legacy institutions, and trying to somehow replicate them in a decentralized manner. This will not go very far at all. What we need to do, what you need to do, is reimagine the society that you live in and then start programming the smart contracts to bring that about. And this is going to provide the necessary change, the necessary prosperity for society. Now that's also something I task myself with. Having now largely completed the base layer technology to my contentment. So I think we do move into a very interesting 5 or 10 years as those imaginations start getting utilized. And for what it's worth, I gave almost exactly this talk as my very first public talk after coming into contact with Ethereum in January 2014. You can still find it online. It's the very first one, and you can tell I'm not practiced. But one of the slides, one of the first slides, when explaining what Ethereum was, states it is the platform on which the social experiments of the 21st century will be conducted. Well, the name might not be Ethereum, but that is what we're talking about here when we talk about Web3.
Such a complicated advice. I thought you were going to say something like, don't do drugs, learn your lessons. You put all the responsibility on the shoulders of poor students. Anything? Okay. And, I mean, we know you're fighting for Web3 freedom, etc., but if you knew that they're going to take all your wealth, debank you, and so on, would you keep going?
I would really hope that Web3 would imply some degree of guarantees against debanking.
Yeah, that they can try to, push on you otherwise. No one loves freedom fighters, no?
I'm not sure. Is that not true?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that's not true.
Okay, all right.
I think it's just the establishment that aren't super keen on freedom fighters.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. Do you want to ask me anything about life and universe?
What is the answer to everything, Artie?
42?
42,
No?
yeah, is that right?
At least I've read that. 1 or 2 questions from audience if you want. Yeah, that's the Bitcoin Edward. Yeah.
Hi Gavin, thanks for visiting Armenia.
Hi.
I would like to ask you, what should a country do to position itself to be a crypto-friendly country? What laws should it adopt? What laws it should not adopt, or should it just let the crypto run wild and free in the country? Like, what should Armenia do to have more crypto businesses, companies, and more crypto people come and work here?
Make clear guarantees of freedoms, enforce them absolutely. And avoid getting tangled up in the decaying world order's attempts to strangle itself.
Yeah, but more like in real life right now, is there any jurisdiction that you like their approach fully?
I think jurisdictions, I mean, you've got to remember, governments are slow-moving things, and they tend to be full of establishment people. So I think, you know, to the extent that we are comparing, like, Armenia is doing pretty well, right? It's got relatively freedom-minded government in place. And you always have to remember, there's a degree of, like, if you're comfortable, you're not likely to innovate. Yeah, we have a phrase in English, necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah. If you're squeezed and uncomfortable, you will innovate your way out of discomfort. And I look at Armenia on the map, and it looks to me like it's got some pretty beefy neighbours that might like to throw their weight around a bit. And this may very well be something of a mother of invention, maybe. But unfortunately, other countries, like for example the UK, are in a very, or have traditionally at least been in a very comfortable position. Big beefy neighbour, protecting its space, and a population that's largely coddled between two political parties. And this is unfortunate. Now, I think what I would say to you with this question, how should the country help itself, is what I would say, you know, to any country, which is specify the freedoms, enforce them, and ensure that the international bankers don't screw up your guarantees to your citizens too much. And unfortunately, they will try. They really will.
Okay. The last question, I guess. Yeah.
So thanks for coming. First of all, thanks for coming. Thanks for interesting discussion. I'm not a very Web3 guy, but I have a message
From whom? Bankers?
from the guys who built 100 millisecond block production on Polkadot. So, do you have advices for them?
100 millisecond block on Polkadot, that's what he wants?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not really the right person to ask. Should really be, well, certainly at least the head of technology at Parity, and possibly even the author, who is the code author that's pushing towards this, who I will not embarrass by naming. It is on the horizon, and it is something that we are pushing towards. 100 milliseconds is not necessarily where the first milestone is going to be, right? It takes a lot to get from So a system that's architected for 6 seconds down to a system that's architected for 1/60th of that. However, there will be some effort to ensure that transactions can reach some degree of finality within that sort of time. Now you see the issue, the difference in my wording and what the question was, is crucial. And it's that difference that belies misunderstandings of blockchain technology. Systems like Solana will come along and say, oh, well, we've got 200 millisecond blocks, we've got this metric, we've got that metric. But the way that they'll get these metrics is by cutting corners elsewhere. Important corners that really cannot be cut. Corners of things like decentralization or requirements of placement where servers sit. Or resilience. So, before you go too full on with the I want a block time of X or I want a block size of Y, think about what it is that you actually want to achieve first. Because if it is just the next shitcoin casino, probably the guys that will roll out a centralized shitcoin chain are going to be better than a truly scalable, truly decentralized, truly resilient Web3 platform.
Yeah, are the Solana guys here? Yeah, chalk on that. Alrighty. Thanks again, Gavin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Gavin. Thank you, Artyom, for this honest, unscripted conversation. Dear guests, we will be back here at 3 p.m. with our next panel discussion from the HR community. If you are looking for something more technical, please pay a visit to the main conference hall at 1 p.m., where the Vice President of NVIDIA, Rev Leberedyan, will be giving a speech on building an AI nation. Thank you.